I'm Desmond Mayo. I was born 12th of the 2nd, 45 in Peterborough, South Australia. Mum was evacuated during the bombing of Darwin, and along with a few other me mates, I was born in Peterborough and a few were born in Balaclava in South Australia.
And now who are your people?
Well, I've got ties with Gurindji, Coburg people, Waterman. Well, people ask me who I am and, what do you are? And I said, what do you got in it? Are you Aboriginal? I said, well, I'm Aboriginal Malaya. Got a bit of Malaya and Timorese. And I said, well, just call me Heinz variety. I said, because I've got English in it too.
When did you serve in Vietnam, just so we get a sense of the era?
I went over in 68. We arrived there, June 68. And we come home in 69, 12 months over there.
Did you enlist of your own accord?
No, well, I originally got called up in 1965, National Service, second intake. And from Darwin, they flew me to Adelaide. And from Adelaide, I went over to Puckapunyal for corps training. In September, we did 3 months corps training there. And from there, I got transferred to 3 RAR. And I spent 10 months with them. Then they decided they wanted to disband the company in Woodside, Adelaide, and sent us over to Malaysia to join 4 RAR. So in 1966, I was over in Malaya. Spent 14 months in Malaya, and we were just doing tours around and doing operations around the area, around Malacca and all around Malaysia there. And my time was running out with National Service. So a bloke by the name of Warrant Officer Burke, he's passed now. He got about 20 of us to sign on to take to Vietnam with him, and because us spending 14 months in Malaya, we had the experience of jungle warfare. So we all signed on, and I got promoted to a Lance Corporal and a few of the others, and went back to Brisbane, and we got a new batch of National Service people, and we had to train them. So we done 12 months training, Canungra and up Shoalwater Bay before we went over to Vietnam.
How did you feel about your marble being drawn out and you actually having to go into, were you angry about it? Were you happy? Did you accept it?
Well, I just accepted when, because I was in Townsville at the time, working in Townsville, and Mum rang me up and said, you got to come back to Darwin to register for National Service, otherwise they'll lock you up. And I said, yeah, righto. So come back here, then registered in Darwin, and I had a feeling I was going to get called up, And I was only one of the many that passed the medical, and I was accepted into the army then. And I just took it on I said, it's got to be done, so I just took it in my stride and went.
Now this is pre-1967, so this is pre the referendum of 67.
Yeah.
Okay, you weren't even recognised in the Australian population. You had no rights to vote, but you get called up. So how did you feel about that aspect of it? Yeah,
well, I don't actually know about that, because if you were half caste up here in Darwin, and you had certain rights. You could go into the pub, and the father used to, stepfather was Malay, he was from TI. He used to go to the RSL at Christmas time, and him and a few of the old Darwin people were accepted. And the main conflict, I think, was when I found out about all this when the blokes come back from Korea. They had trouble being accepted by the RSL then. And a majority of them were half caste, and so they felt a bit out of place. And But Anzac Day, that, you know, I don't know whether they marched, but I can't recall them marching. But you know,
No, I guess they were probably
Yeah.
discouraged
Yeah.
from being part. It was
Yeah.
fine to go over and fight,
Yeah,
but when
yeah.
you came back,
Yeah.
it was a whole different story. All right, well, let's talk, because this year is the 50th anniversary not only of Long Tan, but they're also looking at the 50th anniversary of Vietnam Veterans Day and, in fact, the whole, an overview of the war.
Yeah.
So, you know, for a lot of people, it was a very, really, if you want, a war that was all over the place. There didn't seem to be a lot of structure to it in terms of, you know, it was a different kind of war to World War I, World War II, where you had clear fronts, you had
Yeah.
all sorts of things going on. What are your recollections of your time? Where were you stationed?
I was stationed at Nui Dat,
Nui Dat?
Yeah.
And who were you stationed there with?
4RAR NZ.
4RARNZ.
Yeah, New Zealand. We had a New Zealand attached to us. And yeah, we used to do go out and patrols around the Nui Dat, not Long Tan, but around that area, South Vietnamese. You know, they used to put us on choppers. So we're going out, we're going to clear this area. So
Anywhere near
We'd be
Vung Tau? Or
No, never
Vung Tau's
got-
further, nowhere near the border.
Vung Tau
Okay.
was the R&C place, if you got a chance to go there. And so mostly down the bottom there around southeast Vietnam, we did a lot of patrols there and had a few contacts.
So tell me about, you know, you sit here, you casually say we had a few contacts. Now, to the average person, if I hear that, I'll be going, all right, how do I get out of here? Had a few contacts.
Yeah.
What do you mean you had a few contacts?
Well, when you're out patrolling, if you're lead section, and like one time there we were lead section, I was third in line, I had 2 forward scouts and I was acting corporal, and forward scout pulls me up and he says, seen a footprint there? And water running in. So you just clicks in your mind, well, we're going to do this, got to put someone down there to which way he came, someone at the other end to watch if they're going to return on the track. And you start, you know, positioning people. So if we get, and when I did put him down, I took about 2 or 3 paces away from him. He opened fired. So I hit the deck. I'm in no man's land, so I'm trying to crawl back to my troops, and then I've got to set the machine gun up and the other troops to form a line. So in the meantime, I'm getting shot at, and you know, and you can hear this whiz, 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 and so you're trying to move your troops up into position to give covering fire to the bloke that was at in sentry, to get him back into line with you. And then the sections behind, or the other 2 platoons behind you, we had a bloke from artillery. So as soon as we got the contact, the bloke said NVR, we hit North Vietnamese troops. So they called in artillery, and we were getting all that shrapnel running over our head, you know. So, and we're trying to position, and I forget how many we got there anyway. We didn't get any casualties in that one. So after it's all over and you're sitting down there, you start thinking and you're looking around and seeing where the bullet holes were. You said, oh, I was crawling there, you know. So if your bum would have been up in the air, and you weren't hugging the ground, you probably got shot in the bum, you know. So then after it's all over, you do body counts and that, then bury them, and then you go on your merry way again, you know, start patrolling again.
So how many Viet Cong, how many VC would have been in that engagement at a rough guess? Were there a lot?
Oh, I don't know, it might have been 10 or 12. They could have been the advance party, because you don't really know, because you know, you're fighting in thick scrub, and yes.
And how many of you would there have been?
There was 10 of us in the front. Then there would have been a company, would have been over 100. Yeah. Because you go in companies, you do patrols in companies. So.
Yeah. I didn't ask what company in
no,
4RAR were you with?
Yeah, Charlie Company.
Charlie, okay.
Yeah.
When you went over,
Yeah.
because I know you know, things aren't always great here in Australia, and they still aren't always great. But did the colour barrier disappear at that point, and you all became one, or was there a little bit of?
No, we formed a bond. There was no racism in the company or anything like that. We formed a bond and more or less a brotherhood. So we knew, you know, we looked after each other because we had to. We were a group of people, and I can't even remember having a fight with any of them, you know, over in Vietnam over racism or things like that.
So mateship
And comradeship was the main object of it, yeah.
How do you stop yourself going nuts? You know, what sorts of, you know, was there football? Was there, you know, what sorts of things did you guys do? Have a bit of a joke, have a bit of a laugh, let your hair down, just because being on edge 24/7 is a tough thing.
Well, the only time you done sport over there was volleyball, but in Malaya I played a lot of sports.
But Vietnam was completely different.
Yeah, yeah.
And is that because you were always under, you just didn't know where, you know, Charlie was going to show up?
Yeah, well, you didn't expect it. You're all on the ball, and when you harboured up of a night, it was all pitch black, and then wait there, you wouldn't sleep, you know, because sometimes you'd have to go and pick it. It'd be raining, and you'd be sitting in a pit full of water, and so you know, any little bloody movement, lightning flash, and you look up, shout Charlie coming, or you know, so you're pretty well on your toes all the time. The only time you relax is when you went back to base camp, you know.
Tell me a little about the conditions and how, I guess, you know, everything from what you were issued, your uniforms, the food, how did everything work there?
The Aussie ration pack, we had, sometimes you were lucky to get that bully beef and a tube of condensed milk and coffee, satchel of coffee and that, and dog biscuits. You know, you bite it, your teeth will fall out. I've got no teeth now. And you'd get the American ration pack towards the end there. We'd have, and they'd have chicken and all this stuff and tuna and, you know, so that they had a good ration pack, but you'd throw all the garbage out, and because you had to carry 5 or 6 days ration at a time. So
the conditions, the heat and the rain, tell me about that.
I was pretty used to the heat and that because of being in Darwin in the tropics, but you know, you'd have your same clothes on for a week and it gets a bit smelly after. And at night, if it was raining, you'd try and put your hoochie up. It had to be low on the ground, and you'd get out your blow up. None of us used that. We just lay our ground sheet down and sleep on that and best you can.
And then things like, I guess, having to wear wet clothes for a week at a time.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Just.
And some blokes, if they had to retrieve a body, they had blood stains on it, and that got a bit smelly until we got a resup. But half the time you didn't get, you know, the only time you got resup was when your rations were running low and helicopters used to come in. You had to make a chopper pad so they can drop it in, and you might be lucky to get a fresh set of clothes.
Des, it's 50 years on, and as we look at the war, how do you see the war? What does it mean to you, your participation in Australia's participation? Was it worth it? Was it a waste of time? You know, what good and what bad do you see coming out of Vietnam?
Well, we were told that if you know, the main object was going over there to stop the communists from infiltrating. You know, like Japan nearly got here, or some of them did, but we're stopping them from coming over, and with protecting the shores. I don't know whether you're brainwashed and that, but you know, you just more or less, once you put that uniform on, you had a job, and if you're directed to go there, you went there, you done your job, and you know, we just took it as it come, day by day. If you made it back to Australia, you made it back. So.
Did you have any mates who didn't make it back?
We lost about 5 over there in different operations.
Who were they and how did it affect you?
Patrick O'Connor, he was out on checkpoint outside of that day, which was a known BC area, and there was a place called the Horseshoe, like a half a volcano, and we were up there, and they were down there doing checkpoint and checking the villagers coming in and out, and someone fired a rocket launcher in and he copped it there. Luckily the Americans were there, and there was an APC and they went down and picked him up, you know, because he was just out on picket doing his normal job, and then someone launches a grenade in there and he's gone. So we just had a talk about it, and, you know, amongst ourselves, and said we've got to be more alert, you know. So next time you went out, you went slower when you were travelling, you know. Because I lost a few mates before I went over, you know, in civil life, and so, you know, we just remembered the good times, you know. Oh, while we were over there, we're doing a clearing in one of the bunker systems, and the old Americans decide they want to, we called in artillery, and so apparently they had a plane flying around, and they come flying in, the jets, and strafed us, and we had about 5 blokes got wounded. Luckily few of them come back to Australia. And about a month after, we're doing the same thing, doing the bunker system again, and next thing the Yanks come through, and because artillery fire, they went to boost it and dropped a 500-pound bomb on us. So and it rained dirt for about 2 or 3 minutes, you know, because it was the biggest hole, and so we all started digging our bloody trenches a bit deeper, waiting for a second run, but they never come back. Because one of them had to come down from Saigon to Nui Dat to apologise to us, and, you know, it was all a mix-up because they didn't change radio frequencies, so they didn't know who was in there. So when we come back on the Sydney from Vietnam, we marched through Brisbane, and they bussed us out to Enoggera, to the barracks, and meet and greet, you know. People had family, I didn't have any, but I had a lot of friends there and knew their mothers and that. And then they handed you your airline tickets. We had cold sandwiches, cordial, cup of tea or coffee if you wanted it, and might have been a bit of cake, and handed you airline tickets, so here, see you in 3 months, you know, because I had to come back to Darwin, and I thought, oh, well, you know, didn't say, oh, do you want to lift out there or anything, but luckily one of my mates took me out to the airports. Come back to Darwin and stayed for 3 months, went back in, got discharged. I had to spend another couple of days in the army after discharge because they didn't have me airline tickets or nothing sorted out, and there was nothing mentioned about this post-traumatic stress disorder or that, because I found it difficult living back in civilian life. I got married after 12 months and had a daughter, then I had 4 daughters, and then I used to go for a wander, you know, run away for 4 or 5 days. I was saying, what the bloody hell's gone wrong, you know, just go out in the binge on the booze, and because no one ever told me about post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, the effects after war. And then when they opened the War Memorial in Canberra, all my mates rallied around and flew me down to Canberra, because I was off work then, and flew me down there. Then all these questions started, how's your hearing? I said, they get ringing and all this, and do you go wandering and all this? And they said, you got bloody PSD. And I said, what the hell is that, you know? And they told me what it was, and so they filled out the form and brought it back to Darwin. I was still working then. I worked till I was, till 96, I think I finished work. I kept working, and then it got too much for me. because all the people I was training were getting promoted. I was working in a government job, and they were getting promoted, and I was staying at the same level and come up and throw things at you. And I said, I beg your pardon, don't throw it at me. And I end up talking to the big boss and sent me for medical, and they discharged or finished me from work. And I went to Vet Affairs and applied for a pension, and they said, no, you're getting all your super and that, it's going to take 3 months. And I said, well, that's a lot of crap. I said, how many people get their super? You can put it back in when you finish, you know. And I said, no, I want to get a house and that, you know. And so I told them to stick it in the air, and I got it within a week. Then I had to fight them for that TPI, totally permanent.
Be incapacitated.
Yeah. Took me 3.5 years to get it. And they flew me to Adelaide to talk to an Army fella, a Navy fella, a RAF fella and a civilian, and they said, oh no, we'll give you a 15% pension, you know. And I said, so I appealed it and went before a judge and ended up getting it through him. You know, so 3.5 years of fighting, and you know, because I was on the dole then, and that's what I said. There's a lot of people walking around now that need it, but they're too frightened to go for it because the system is gradually changing, and they've heard my story how I fought 3.5 years, and yet other people can walk in there and flick of a finger they've got it, you know. So that was the only discrepancies I've had, you know. So.
You said, you know, you tell kids when you stand in front of them the good and the bad, the good story, the bad. What's your worst moment from Vietnam?
I don't know whether you've been into the Adelaide, not the Canberra War Museum. If you walk into that Vietnam veterans part, they got a chopper there with people disembarking, and all of a sudden it goes black, real dark, and you got bombs going, or rockets going off and flashes and that, because first time that happened to me, I hit the deck and I started crawling, because, you know, it's just that, the worst thing, probably losing the mates there, you know, and through stupidity. A couple of times I lost, or a couple of mates I lost, I wasn't out there. And they just kept getting pushed, and you know, because I was very wary. If I didn't think it was safe, I used to tell them, you know, you want to go, you go, you know. Or we'll keep going, but with caution. But they just kept pushing, and they end up walking into ambushes, and that's how they lost it, you know. Whether it's the Aboriginal instinct in me, I don't know, because we were always cautious. Sometimes you walk along and you get a funny feeling, and you say, oh, this is not right, you know. So have a good look around and let the blokes know in front of you. And yeah, so that was about the worst experience. Yeah.
Let's go the other way. Not that I guess you could call Vietnam in any way a great experience, but what was your best memory of Vietnam in terms of something good, something that stays with you for all the right reasons?
Probably the R&C down at Vung Tau, when you can let up a bit of steam and have a swim in a swimming pool. You know, but apart from losing the 5, I think I lost 2 in, we lost 2 in our section, so, you know, and I wasn't there, and that's something in the past. I've been down to Perth to have a look at their graves, and you know.
You miss them?
Yeah. Now and again you go through the old photos and you sit down and you say, oh yeah, Roosty and.
But you've learned to live with yourself though, the fact it wasn't your fault you weren't there.
No, I've lived with it now, and even now I still get the urge to just go walk about, hop in the car, come back 2 days later, and you know, just way of meditating, I suppose, and come back and you're good as gold, you know. I've been a psychiatrist and that, but same old. And one of the psychiatrists said, we can't fix that for you, you know, medication, but I was on Prozac, but I don't take it anymore because I don't want to be addicted to it.
You want to be your own person anyway. I just want to clarify, when you talk about, you know, visiting the War Memorial and seeing the Chinook, was it the Chinook or Iroquois? Iroquois.
Yeah.
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 Was you hit the floor in the War Memorial?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I crawled for a little while and I run out because the caretaker outside said, "You're right, mate." And I said, "Not really, mate." I said, "I just had a flashback, you know, because, you know, night time, you get into a fight and you don't know what's going on and artillery going off around you." But I give the artillery blokes hope. They really backed you up. They knew exactly where you were, you know, because we always had one with us. And as soon as you got into a big fight, they called in artillery and, you know, quietened down a bit. So you just laid on the floor and hope for the best, because they were dropping them close.
Everybody talks about the PTSD.
Yeah.
And you think you're okay and you don't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
And now when anything happens, anything, you know, it doesn't matter what sort of disaster, people come out of the woodwork to counsel you.
Yeah.
Back then, you literally flew back, you got on a plane, you got off the plane, the next morning you're having breakfast with your folks and your sisters and brothers, whoever, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's back, isn't this great?"
Well, when you come back, your mates were totally different from the army mates. You'd go to the prep hotel and they'd come in, have a beer with you and bolt, you know, go. And I end up drinking with the old diggers, the old Korean blokes, you know. I got on better with them than I did with me mates because they all had their own agenda. And I don't know, you weren't leprosy, but that's how you felt, you know.
What about the girls?
Well, the girls sort of shied from you too. You know, they sort of, I don't know whether it was being away for 4 years or, you know, that my attitude changed to life, but I thought it didn't, but there must have been something different.
Do you think any of it had to do with the fact you'd been fighting in Vietnam and it was a very divisive war? It divided the population back here in Australia, so people, I know quite a number of vets, and Bob can probably say maybe the same thing happened to him, I don't know, but there are a lot of people would never wear their medals, they would never tell anybody they were a veteran. No. Did you tell people where you'd been, what you'd done?
I told people, I was proud of it, because I earned them, and we lost mates, and and every 2 years we have a reunion, our company. We have it every 2 years. There's about 30 or 40 blokes turn up. And it goes for about 4 days. And I've been to Tassie, Perth, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and next year we're going to Gladstone, because one of the majors is still alive. Our company CEO, he's still alive and he's pretty crook, and there's a captain up there, he's pretty crook, so we're going to go there and have the reunion there.
And the other thing, the war, I know, I think it was the last war that didn't have it, was maybe towards the end, you know, there were no mobile phones. Now people email, they do all those things. Back then, keeping contact with the family was the old-fashioned way, writing, wasn't it? Yeah,
writing, and if you're lucky enough to be in Australia, you can send them a telegram or go and book your telephone call. They had to go to the post office in Darwin, and you had to go to the phone box and ring them and things like it, you know. So no, I enjoyed my life in the army.